You're listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paventa, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, I have a great guest. It is Dr. Fred Moss. He's a psychiatrist who has been actively participating in the mental health field internationally for over 40 years. And mental health is such an important topic nowadays, so I'm very happy to have him on Ideas and Leaders today. Hi, Fred. It's great to have you here.
It really is great to be here, and what a great topic. It's so timely. And, every time someone reminds me how long I've been doing this, it's just shocking. I start thinking about, I've really been in mental health as a professional for 42 years and as a psychiatrist for something like 33 years as a psychiatrist. And it's like, it just seems day to day, and it seems like, maybe it's going to end soon, but then I realize I've really amassed over 4 decades in the field. So it's amazing. It's like, wow, I didn't even notice. Really... I didn't notice while it happened. Yeah.
It's really impressive. And looking at your career and your clients that you've been working with and comparing your experience to the last couple of years when we have the pandemic and everything changed, do you see that there is a change in mental health issues, and what change do you observe?
Yeah. Well, I think there's, the whole definition of mental health has to be thrown out there. And what is it that we're really talking about when we're saying we're mentally healthy or not? So there's been some paradigmatic shifts over time that have most of us believing that if we feel bad, that there's something wrong with us. And that's what's called mental health. Mental health is when you don't feel bad, apparently, except that isn't really what mental health is. Feeling bad when it's proper to feel bad is called being mentally healthy. And so, we like to think that if we're feeling miserable or anxious or afraid or depressed, there must be something wrong with us. That is simply not the case. So when we're confused in a confusing situation, or when we're depressed in a sad situation, or when we're nervous when the future looks very, very unclear, or when we're hopeless because our direction has changed, that's called being mentally healthy, actually, even if it hurts to the bone. And the idea is that being tolerant of the intolerable and being accepting of the unacceptable and embracing all of life for what it is, including the burns and the misery and the pain, as well as the ecstasy, the magic, and the miracles. That's what mental health is. You see, so if that's where we have to start, you could say, oh, the world is less healthy because we're more depressed. That's not actually accurate. We're more depressed. And if in a situation where depression is appropriate, where feeling sad is appropriate, that's the essence of being mentally healthy. If you can learn how to not be sad when you should be sad, there's nothing healthy about that. The opportunity is to just take life for what it is, respond effectively based on what's so, utilizing everything that's there and available to do so. And then from there, that, in my eyes, is mental health. It's like blaming a log for burning in a fire doesn't make any sense. If you put a log in fire and it burns, that's a good log. Good job. And that's because that's what a log is supposed to do in a fire. If you put somebody in a situation where fear, anxiety, pain, and discomfort are expected and normal, and they show fear, anxiety, pain, and discomfort, I got nothing more to say. That's called mental health. Let's share. Let's be with each other. Let's connect, because that's where the healing comes.
Yes, I really love it. And I think that we have this paradigm shift in the last years that everyone says that we should be happy. There are happiness courses, happiness coaches, that we need to feel amazing all the time, and we can do this. So many people, they're like confused. We cannot be happy all the time, and they start feeling that something is wrong with them. So I really love what you're saying, that as human beings, it is okay when we don't feel very well.
That's right.
Yeah. However, in the last couple of years, you think that do you see and do you observe that people like became there are more cases of depression, and that all this situation, it causes anxiety, and does it influence their mental health somehow?
Sure. I think there's a couple things. People have asked me this a number of times, and I'm going to take a little bit of a slightly different angle as I answer today. And the couple things that come to mind is I think that there is a blanket of resignation that has fallen over a lot of the community in all of the globe, actually. A sense that maybe it doesn't matter, or a hopelessness that putting forth your best effort doesn't seem like it's worth it anymore. So a sense that your work you're not getting the payoff from the work of bringing a good attitude or bringing some new ideas. New ideas are squelched, they're canceled or censored. And, if you're outside the mainstream in your thinking, which most people actually are, it's funny. Almost everybody is outside the mainstream in their thinking, but they actually temper it down so that they can be in something that's elusive called the mainstream. But almost all of us are in our real thinking are outside the mainstream, and then we temper it down. We're actually, homogenizing ourselves. So there's unhealthiness in that, for sure. There is unhealthiness in changing the way that you are in order to meet the goals and needs of where someone or something wants you to be, like actually giving up your true essence and in order to fit into a population that you actually don't agree with. This is a huge problem. And this level of duplicity, there is some inherent mental dis-ease that comes from that, for sure. So I would say that's one area of life where in the last couple of years, there's been a pandemic in the resignation component of what that is to be a human. And I think that is inherently a fracture and a disease and needs healing. And the healing that it needs, it comes from not only bringing forth true voice, but listening to other people bring their true voice forward, being enough aware that that is their true voice, and and then listening carefully and then bringing forth what is one's true voice to that conversation is where healing comes. Healing comes in the connection. Another piece of this, which might be the other piece I wanted to point to, which might be secondary and correlated to that, is that I think that people are just like so self-righteous about what they have to say about not only the pandemic, but a number of issues. And not only are they self-righteous, there's this new level of hating or not accepting any views that are not aligned with our views, even if our views are elementary and based in the sky, even based in like the sand, based in like, where did you get that? Like, why do you think that? And so people are actually acting more like they're sure of themselves when in fact they are definitely less sure of themselves. So even they're responding to being less certain about what is really so for them by pretending that they are more certain about what's really so for them. Again, what we have here is a disconjugation. We have a disconnection between who we really are and who we act like we be. And when you have that level of disconnection, that is not healthy. That is not, I would say that's the essence of, mental disease, is the duplicity that comes with being someone you're not, with working hard to be someone that you're not in order to fit in or in order not to get in trouble. And I think right there, that is that last twist to pretend to be someone that you're not and then carry it out. I don't have a vote in for that one. That just doesn't seem like a very good plan. And clearly leads to disruption in mental health on a personal and community and global scale.
Yeah. So if we are not in line with who we are, if we are following someone else's points of view or mainstream, then we can have certain problems. But I think that this is fundamental, that we need to know who we are at a certain level. We need to understand who we are, what are our values. And so what do you think, if we understand at a certain point that, yes, we might have some issues, that we need probably mental health treatment, do you recommend the conventional mental health treatment all the time, or do you see any alternatives, and what are those alternatives?
Well, you had already mentioned I've been in mental health for 40 years, and frankly, I don't recommend it on a global scale at all. I definitely don't recommend conventional mental health as the primary way to go down this pathway. And the reason I don't is, and I love mental health practitioners. I mean, they're the best. I think we're great. I like being part of the group. I like the whole essence of psychology or social work or counseling or therapy or advisors. I like that a lot. The whole point is that once one enters mental health, the mental health field, usually what that requires is a confirmation that there's something wrong with you. In fact, at the bottom of the insurance form, not everybody uses third party, but many do. They have to write, why are they seeing you? And the reason they're seeing you is because you have a diagnosis. And the reason you have a diagnosis is because there's something wrong with you. And the whole relationship is built on, there's not something wrong with me because I'm the therapist, and there is something wrong with you because you're the patient. And I'm going to give you something that you don't have yet because I have some tools that allow you to be at normal. You, the log who's burning in the fire, need to learn how to stop burning in a fire. And I think that whole model is built on something that inherently promotes dis-ease, rather than going at what's really here, which is actually connecting as a human to human, actually getting that person over there has a viewpoint or a worldview that might be different than yours, or might be aligned in such a way to leave massive discomfort. Do you get that if you're uncomfortable, what you really want is to be heard? And if you're comfortable, what you really want is to be heard. In fact, if you're human, what you really want, I think you can probably fill in the blank here, is to be heard. So if you're an employee, what you really want is to be heard. If you're an employer, I think you're getting the pattern here, right? If you're an employer, what you really want is to be heard. What people really want is to be heard and connected to. So inside the corporate environment, for instance, many people have felt muted or muffled in delivering their true voice due to their concerns of the corporate culture. And what's really available is to bring one's true voice forward, to actually bring one's voice and not be herded, but actually to be heard. So the possibility exists that you don't have to be muffled. You don't have to be muted, that your true self, your true voice is welcome everywhere. And it's at least as welcome as whatever lie that you're making up. I mean, there's no way that the lie you're making up is a better idea ultimately than whatever it is your true voice. I just have to stick with that. I get it. Your true voice might leave you vulnerable. I might leave you saying something that other people didn't want to hear. But there is no way that making up a certain self, acting a certain way that is totally misaligned with who you are, and then delivering that into a world that was looking for what you are about can be healthy. So I think that the conventional medical or psychiatric or psychological approach is to, diagnose, treat, medicate, maintain that diagnosis as usually a chronic concern, like, oh, he's got depression or she's got anxiety. And then all of a sudden acting like you're outside the range of normal because you're anxious, or you're outside the range of normal because you're depressed or afraid, or whatever discomfort, low vibrational discomfort you might have. When in fact, wouldn't it be great to confirm that experience, not as, yes, I see there's something wrong with you, but yes, I see that you're human and I am too. Now, if you can find someone to have a connection with you that's willing to confirm that, that's where healing is going to occur. And by the way, you're not going to need 6 months and all sorts of approvals from third parties to make that happen. Healing will occur for you and for the listener when that takes place. And it takes about 1 second. When you're heard, there is no reason to have extended therapy 1 hour a week into the oblivion. Not at all. When you're heard, when you're understood for what's so, when they can hear your pain, when you can hear someone else's misery or values or interests, when you can connect with another person, boom, healing takes place right there.
Yeah, I think that we really want to be heard, and it can be helpful and therapeutical for us. So what do you recommend? How can we do this if we are not maybe professional speakers and trainers and don't talk to people every day? How we can do this?
Yeah, it's great question. Here's what I'm going to submit to that question. We're all professional trainers. We all know how to do it. Every one of us knows how to do this. We're social beings. Every one of us knows how to do this. Connection, it starts from the very second that we're born. We come out, we're with our mom, we connect. That connection is not something you need to learn in school. Connection is not something you need to learn by having I have had thousands of discussions, so maybe I've had a little more than average. But it isn't really, that is, the fact that I went to school and passed some tests, or went to a really great school and passed some tests with some really great people, or went to or have had experience in places where there's really sick people and I was on the well-sided team. That's all well and good. And maybe it does leave me enough to be at least a podcast guest. I'll give you that. I can be a podcast guest and speak to the magic of connection. But you don't need to go to college to learn how to connect to another person. You don't even need to be more than 5 years old to learn how to connect to another person. Connecting to another person is a natural form of humanity. Connecting to another person, imagine, we all know how to connect. That's why we stand up and have these conversations. All the places that you have to do. What are you doing? You tell me about your listenership. Why do you tell me about your listenership? Because you want me to connect to them. You want you to connect to them. Why are we reaching through all this technology we have this morning and all our wants and needs to make sure that we're properly ready to look at each other and be with each other so that we can make a difference? The whole thing driving this is connection. You don't need a PhD in connection to know how to connect as a human being. Therefore, it might be the guy next door who's a plumber. Or it might be the older woman down the block who lives alone. Or it might be the 13-year-old who likes playing basketball in their driveway. Or it might be anyone. But when you connect with another person and hear them for who they are and allow them to have the opportunity to hear you for who you are, it is in that moment of connection that healing occurs instantly and profoundly, way more than anything that any conventional mental health provider can provide for you if you feel miserable and need confirmation of that.
Yeah, so we can basically start conversations and talk to people, and you're encouraging to have those interactions. And you also you were writing about healing through creativity and health expression. So what else can you recommend in this area? What else can we do to towards the better mental health?
Right. So you're pointing to a book I wrote a few years ago called The Creative 8: Healing through Creativity and Self-Expression. And that book points to some really easy ways to find ourselves and find our true voice and to share it with others. So I have it that, while we're creating, while we're actually doing something new, while we're actually bringing a new process into the world, during those times, any of our discomfort tends to dissolve instantly while we're in the act. So those creativity, given that we're brought here as mini creators anyways, and we're creating things second by second, is art or music or dancing or singing or writing or cooking or gardening, even photography. There is a space there while we're creating that leads to a sense of reset and a sense of health. So while you're singing, and you can sing alone, or while you're dancing and you can dance alone, or while you're playing music and you could take sticks out and pound them on the table and call that music. During that process, all the discomfort we feel tends to dissolve, tends to go away, tends to disappear. And maybe it'll come back afterwards if we wanted to, or if we leave the door open, or if we, the stress and strain shows up again. But I really recommend creativity as a way of managing any kind of imbalance. Now, art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, and gardening, and then photography and cleaning are the creative 8 and the extra 2. And then I have what I'll call a trump card. And the trump card is over the top of all of those, the one thing that we can do. And I almost don't want to share it with your listeners because it's kind of a teaser break with my book, but my book is available at welcometohumanity.net/creative or /creative8, either of those. And one of those is an audiobook, and one of those is a ebook. So that's welcometohumanity.net/creative or creative8. The ultimate trump card is service, or helping anyone do anything. And we're back to the essence of connection. When we bring forth our own soul to help somebody carry out that which they're up to, we absolutely leave our own confines of the prison of our self-concerns and bring it out there into the world. And when we help somebody, is there anything more rewarding than actually appreciably helping somebody? And giving someone the opportunity to receive our help is also just beyond imagination in its power. So most people have trouble, actually asking for help. But if we can gracefully provide it anyways, people are so appreciative. And again, a new reset starts, like a new birth of faith about humanity can start. Like, instead of the resignation, people can get a little taste of, wow, maybe people aren't so bad, or maybe I can be helped, or maybe there is hope, or maybe I can help another person. And again, we're looking at healing taking place instantaneously without the need for insurance approval or prolonged treatments or diagnoses or medications.
Great. So thank you very much for all of those tips. So we just need communications, talk to people, express ourselves, do something creative, and serve others. Yeah, and those things can really help us. Thank you very much, Fred, for sharing those things with us. And if you were to summarize and to to share something with our listeners that is the most important, in your opinion, to maintain good mental health, And if we think that something is wrong with us, which maybe it is not, as you said. So what would you like to leave our listeners with?
Sure. Thank you for that question. I really want our listeners to understand that I'm not diminishing the pain and misery and discomfort that's here in your life and here in your world. In fact, I'm underlining it and emphasizing it. I do not think it's less than, or it's made up, or that it's in your head, or pick up yourself by the bootstraps, or, just forget it and move on. Not at all. It's a matter of acknowledging and getting what's so about your pain and your discomfort, your dis-ease, and really getting that being uncomfortable and being miserable, as one might be, is not diminished by me. I'm not saying put on a pair of rose-colored glasses. What I'm really saying is there might be nothing absolutely wrong with that, and that it can theoretically be embraced or at least shared with another, so that healing can begin. Healing in that you are being heard for what your true experience is and helping another. So the ultimate thing I would say with respect to the conversation that we've just had, that might be the take home, is maybe you are not mentally ill. Maybe you are just human. And if you can walk away with you are not mentally ill, you are just human, that is a super great place to start. And you can start actually appreciating being uncomfortable, because you can know that we all are. It's pretty freaking uncomfortable at times being a human. And there's nobody, I don't let anybody tell you, what do you mean discomfort? I'm not uncomfortable. That's just straight BS. If someone says they're on, they don't have a clue what discomfort is, they're just not telling the truth at all. And we all know what deep discomfort is. This is not an effort to diminish it. It's an effort to take away the notion that there's something wrong with being uncomfortable. So when that starts, that it's okay to be uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. You are not mentally ill. You are just human. I think that's a super cool place to launch from. And that's where my work, that's how I help people.
Perfect. Thank you so much for summarizing this in such a beautiful way. And if our listeners want to contact you to talk to you more, where can they find you?
So the website thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you and our listeners. The website is in revision, as many of our websites are, but you can find me at welcometohumanity.net. I'm Dr. Fred at welcometohumanity.net. I like getting emails. So Dr. Fred at welcometohumanity.net. I have a presence on Facebook and a presence on LinkedIn. I also have presence in Insta and Twitter, but I don't use them these days as much. So I think if you're going to get a hold of me, that's where I would go, the Dr. Fred at welcometohumanity.net. I also have a summit coming up on February 19th and 20th called the True Voice Summit, the True Voice Podcasting Summit. I'm graduating 28 people from my course who went from zero to podcast. So these are 28 new and fresh, really great podcasters who are up to great things in the world. We're going to have some keynote speakers and really celebrate and spotlight them. So that's at True Voice Podcasting in the Facebook group. You can come see me there, the podcasting community. Let's see. And, I have this new book coming out. So the new book is Find Your True Voice. And I know that's surprising to everyone that I would have a title called Find Your True Voice, but that is the title of the book. And it's for leaders and coaches and consultants who are ready to bring their authentic message into the world. And that's a book that I certainly can share with you, with our listeners, and even send a copy out there to them if they're interested. And we can talk about all sorts of ways that I can be of some service. I like doing expert speaking and keynote speaking. I have a one-to-one coaching arrangement for those people who feel like they want to do that. And I have a mastermind that really takes on finding your true voice effectively and delivering authentic messages into the world. So I'm up to some good stuff, but it's all the same thing, Elena. It's all the same thing. It's just multiple different ways to look at the same thing.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Fred. We will share your links under the episode so that our listeners can immediately jump there and connect with you. Thank you so much for being on Ideas and Leaders. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for your generosity, great questions, and great conversations.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.